and welcome to the Built Environment Marketing Show, hosted by me, Ayo Abbas. This is part 2 of my interview with Brigitte and Rosie. If you haven't listened to part 1, make sure you do before you listen to this one. And it's just continuing the amazing conversation about sustainability and communications. Enjoy. So what other organisations and campaigns are there? So ACAN's one, Don't Waste Buildings, UKGBC. Are there any other kind of places that people can tap into this if they're really interested that you can kind of think of?
Yeah, I mean, there's so many. There's LETI, there's, which is a low energy transition initiative. I always forget because they had a name change a few years ago, and it always complicates me a bit. There's Architects Declare, they do really amazing things. There's the National Retrofit Hub. Oh God, now you're putting me on the spot.
No, it's just, to be honest, I can add some of these later on. I've done like a resource on my website, so I'll add some of those in as well. But I do think it's that thing of just knowing where I guess there are outlets where you can really get involved yourself, if this is an area that people are interested in, well as in your day job as well. In terms of getting involved, in terms of what you can do in your actual day-to-day work, are they, as a marketeer and comms person, are there things that they can be doing or should be doing in their day-to-day jobs? Do you feel, Rosie? I'm going to kick off there.
This is kind of the kind of anti-greenwash thing, I think, is the first thing, like being really aware of language and how it's related to actions. And yeah, I mean, I wish we could wave a magic wand and be better at this. Like, we're all very nice and very scared of being a downer or being angry. But at the end of the day, I think greenwash is something to get angry about. A lot of people are making money from the status quo changing so slowly, and they're kind of covering it up. I probably would say this because I'm a consultant now, but I think voting with your feet is really important. Like, if you can work for people you believe in on projects you believe in, there are loads of them out there, and they really need help from good communicators and marketeers.
I think senior stakeholders rely on marketing for their messaging strategy, right? And so I think, by owning sustainability comes with confidence. You can shift the narrative from greenwashing to genuine impact. And people want this. I think don't be shy about that. Be the expert in the room. I think you should frame sustainability as a business advantage, not a cost, right? Find your language. I think this is what you need to do. You need to actually go around and investigate and find your language of how to do this. Push for transparency. Progress, not perfection. People are really worried about being called out. I think that's a perpetual issue that people come up and ask me about. And I think, people want to rely on brands that, are honest and they're purpose-driven, and you will see higher engagement and brand loyalty. I think that's really important. I think you need to be very specific. So, there's greenwashing, and greenwashing often gets hidden into the generic, you called it a kind of blandization or something like this. And I think, saying something is, just eco or green, sustainable. What do you mean? Be specific. And I mean, I think this is a nuance that you as a marketer needs to cultivate. It's because you need to be specific, but be able to still have clear, kind of simple messaging. So that's a nuance that you need to do. So I think that's a big thing. I think you need to take a clear stance, because customers do trust brands that lead. I trust brands that lead and that don't hedge their bet. Yeah, I think that's kind of it. And I think the main thing is be bold, have creative storytelling, cut through the corporate noise. This is your job, actually. This is why you became a marketer. And you by even listening to this, it shows that you have some interest in this. And the fact is that it's now your job as a person. There's no certificate. You can do a 5-week course at Harvard or whatever and get that certificate and put it on LinkedIn. Who cares? Actually, genuinely, what you need to do is learn about, this industry, this realm, and you need to find a way to develop your own language. It's a very creative, realm. Connect with people. And I think that's what you can do today, is connect with people and figure out how you're going to, sell in the story.
So this is all well and good. I know, like, when you work in house, it can be at times that your boss is saying, no, just get this out in this way. Are there any tips in terms of, I guess, pushing back but still keeping your job, Rosie?
Yeah,
because
really
it's true.
difficult.
This does happen, as we know.
Absolutely. I mean, the number of times back in the day I've scratched out the word green in a press release and like the clients put it back in and stuff. I think it's, as Brigitte was saying, it's the finding your allies and building that network and kind of using other people's, like, third-party endorsements, marketing gold, right? So if you can get somebody else to say what you want to say, often senior leadership will listen to technical experts. And they can help convince senior leadership that your course of action, your recommendation is right. I think also being able to point to other brands, if you like, in our industry who are doing things a bit differently, like maybe their comms are a little bit more humble, maybe they're taking you on the journey, maybe they're showing you what they found difficult, and actually they're getting a lot of buy-in. Whereas brands that are saying, you know, nope, we're right, we've always known this, we were born a green finance wizard, like, they're not that engaging. And I think as certainly like the end users, like, you know, tenants and also the investors are looking to work with more progressive partners because it's part of their brand image, I think that's a business advantage. So being able to kind of put that position forward, that doing things a slightly different way, a more authentic way, more honest way, more iterative way is a business advantage, is compelling sometimes for senior leadership, but it is really hard.
Yeah, I know it is, like, because it's like conversations as well. But I think even in communications, in terms of the terms and the language, I think if you're stating using some kind of terminology, explain what you mean by it. I think that's just simple comms practice. You know, like, you use a word, explain what your definition is of that word. It just makes your communication so much clearer. And I think especially when people are just saying, oh, use this word, eco or this, it's like, doesn't actually mean anything, does it? You know.
There are some amazing, actually, I've been following quite a lot of people on LinkedIn recently who are not in the sector, but they are amazing communicators, sort of pure sustainability communicators. And, you know, they post really good, like, tick lists, exactly like that, like, you know, follow up, be real. Yeah, I'll have a think about some links. Maybe we can add them into the show notes, because I learn a lot from that, and it's useful to get insights from people working on other sectors.
Yeah, no, I think it definitely is. Do you want to add something, Brigitte?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, just to paint the picture, so I understand that I'm answering the right question, because I often answer the wrong questions.
It's all right.
You're talking about senior level, kind of your bosses, basically. If you are a marketer and you want to kind of shift more into the sustainability, you know, focused lens of communicating, and you're getting pushback from senior leaders, how do you
navigate it?
Okay, good. I'm happy I'm on that. I think, you know, not everybody is aligned and not everybody's up to scratch on, you know, the way that the wind is blowing. So you need to take that into account. I think pushback is a difficult term. I think what you need to do is kind of get buy-in and try to really understand what it is that they want and sell it into them. So you're not just selling it into consumers, but also selling it into everyone.
Yeah, internally. No, you're absolutely
And I think
right.
your senior leaders, they care about risk, their reputation, revenue. That's their big thing, right? And so I think you need to find your language also with your bosses about how you frame sustainability, you know, as a competitive advantage, and not just an ethical choice that sounds good, right? And so do your homework. I mean, a little bit what Rosie says, find other, you know, leaders that are inspiring and good at their language. There's an economist, Dimitri Zangelis, who I think is mind-blowing. And he talks about policy and economics in a very engaging and convincing way that I find really inspiring, right? So you know, grow your kind of knowledge base from people outside your industry so you can bring that in. And I think you can sit there and say, you know, 80% of consumers want brands to be more sustainable. And, you know, 60% will pay for more eco-friendly products. I mean, these are like the general statistics that are there. So there is that consumer demand. And the reputation's already there. It's important. So if you're not doing that as a business, you're kind of channeling yourself into the dark ages.
And you're missing an opportunity, right? Yeah.
Totally. Nobody's looking over the pond right now and looking at the US and going, you guys are going to be leaders in 100 years' time. No one is doing that, right? So it's fine. If you want to do that, great. But do you want to be a dinosaur, in 100 years? And so I think you can also, bring up some of these things like your own marketing, positioning, let's say. So you can sit there and say your competitors are already shifting their message to lead on sustainability. And if you don't do that, you're losing your competitive edge. Your bosses will care about that.
I think that is right. It's a difficult balance, isn't it? Because we don't want to all be like jargony people, but I think technical expertise is totally important because it builds that trust with your audiences. And you have to understand the system that you're working in. And that's the difference between, I think, a lot of property comms, which is just broadcast versus the strategic side of things that we work in, Brigitte, which is being really fortunate to be in at the early stages of a project, helping shape it. So whether that's a classic kind of movement building campaign or taking a business in a new direction or, doing kind of wider initiatives like accountability or housing. If you understand the system and its facets and you understand the kind of push points and like you say, the worries, but the sells to each part of it, it just helps you wrap that message better. And I think it's more powerful.
No, and it is. And I think that, there's a strange, tag that has followed anything sustainable for a long time, which is that sustainability is expensive.
Yeah.
Right? Doing sustainable messaging means expensive campaigns. And that's a non-truth. It's purpose-driven marketing, as you guys know, sees higher engagement and brand loyalty at lower cost effectively than traditional advertising. And I think, we need brands with strong sustainability narratives. And I think what you can do is do your homework, sell it into your bosses, show that, your competitors, have run with, these types of campaigns and shown how they have performed in terms of customer loyalty, trust, and I guess retention is a big one. And we now have those metrics. We are now able to track these things. We're not, in a space that we were 15 years ago. 15 years ago, I was a tree hugger, and now it's, I'm all of a sudden relevant. It's
and now you're a finance person.
You've rebranded.
Heading to the treasury, baby.
Do you know what? I think you like the letter R, the letter R, because it's got risk, reputation, revenue, retention, regenerative.
I'm the R lady.
Hi, it's Io here, and I just wanted to interrupt the show quickly to say a bit more about what I do. I'm a digitally led marketing consultant, and I specialise in working with built environment firms just like yours. I think there's so much more that AEC firms can do to make the most of the digital marketing opportunity. And if it's something that you would like to explore working with me, how to make the best of online and in-person worlds, then do get in touch. Email me at io, which is AYO, at abbasmarketing.com, and let's have a chat. But actually, as a model, that's quite interesting in terms of looking at the kind of the messaging and how you can actually take that to leaders and in language that they actually care about, isn't it? And I think that's the key part, is communicating with that audience in the way that works for them as well, isn't it?
And also, what have you got to lose? What we're seeing is that very few people, there are some, but basically everyone agrees that, climate change is a thing, and that we are heading towards a climate crisis, and that as individuals, consumers, citizens, we need to do something about it, right? Like that. So you're not actually, it's not that difficult. You're not just kind of trying to push that boulder uphill, right? So I think you don't really have that much to lose, because you are actually just opening your messaging out to, a wider and broader audience.
So I'm going to kind of move slightly on to retrofit. So how can we reuse and refurbish, which has actually taken on a huge kind of, it's become a lot more popular in the past few years, thankfully. definitely communications wise. So in terms of the retrofit debate, Rosie, can you tell me a bit more about that? And I guess as communications, how we can be embracing it more and doing more.
Yeah, I mean, language it's a massive topic, isn't it? Like, God, loads of people are working on it. And
there's more R's as well.
Yeah, so. True. And it's like, that is, I mean, the network is super strong. I think language is really important, as we all know. Do we call it upgrade? Do we talk about warm homes? Do we talk about comfort? I think there's something around money and fuel poverty that's really important. I also think it's important to be empathetic, to understand that retrofitting one's home is an upheaval, even if you can afford it. And in terms of the way I keep track of stuff, Green Finance Institute has an amazing program. It is finance, but they're creating with the private sector lots of really interesting ways that people will be able to pay for retrofit. Banks will be able to finance it, etc. And their newsletters are really good. Retrofit Reimagine Festival, I hope it comes back. I don't know if it's coming back this year. Amazing. The Building Centre's just done a couple of really good retrofit exhibitions. There's one coming next year, I think it is, at the Museum of Home in London, which a friend of mine is curating, which will be much more about kind of like what people can actually do practically, kind of almost veering into like DIY stuff. Councils are doing really cool things. London Council's just launched that Warmer Homes network with loads of local authorities and housing associations. I think the social housing sector is really progressing on retrofit. I think this is probably also tied into like a bigger conversation about housing. Like, what are homes for? What should they do for us? Who's responsible for them? Housing is a human right. Yeah, all of that. But Brigitte, you've worked a lot in retrofit, haven't you?
Yes, it's kind of my thing, or was my thing. And yeah, it's a very interesting thing working, with housing in the UK, where a house is an asset. And I think we're starting to realize that there's some issues here, but we're not yet ready to let go, right? So still, when we're looking at, embedding any costs into upgrading or, retrofitting or changing, or we're still looking to make sure that we can get that money back plus some when we sell it, so that we're kind of tied into this doom loop. And, before returning to the UK, I lived in Switzerland, which has a different approach to housing and different models. And I mean, beyond the kind of cooperative and all of these more kind of social approaches to housing, even just, private rentals. I mean, the housing stock is fabulous there. And I had lived in Scotland before, and moving from Scotland to Switzerland, I realized that I'm not an inherently sick person.
It was your house, right?
I always had a cold or a flu, and it was like a thing. I've got a bad immune system. And it's like, oh no, I live in an insulated house that has good quality windows with, doesn't have drafts, and, it's heated, and I can live a healthy life. So I think, understanding that with retrofitting, I mean, it's something we have to do. And we're not going to be demolishing everything, and we should not be demolishing everything. We've got, the poorest housing stock in all of Europe, and 80% of what we're going to be seeing in the next 100 years is already standing right now. And so, this is something that we just have to do. And there is a cost issue. We need to be very straightforward about that. So, there's how do we start addressing this? We need to start having, honest conversations about this. And, if you want to learn about it, I mean, there's, so many resources. It can be quite overwhelming, but I think, it's quite simple. You basically want an insulated house with good quality windows. But when you do that, because there's an idea that we just need to do that and put on basically a very, very thick coat and then a plastic bag over it. If we run around, what we'll have is we'll just be very, very sweaty and wet. So you need a lot of ventilation, because
I was just say insulation, you can't just put it in, you have to do it properly, don't you? Yeah.
Yes. And, so we have this, and it's not that difficult, but it seems like a minefield. And the fact is that a lot of the housing stock that we have here in the UK, it's easily, it's a lot of the same. So it's not that difficult to do. But it is a tricky thing, and we need, collaborative approach with that, with private and public. I mean, I think what Rosie is talking about with finding sources of how to kind of pay for this and what, grants are available, I think that's really important. I think looking at case studies, I mean, Letty does great stuff. RIBA, ACAN, of course. Campaigns like Warmer Home Scotland have done a fantastic job. There's a UK Green Home grants and super homes. So there's lots of these guides.
You're right about the case studies, though. I remember a couple of years ago, Waltham Forest Council, at one of their social homes that was really badly insulated, they decided to retrofit it. And I can't remember how much they spent on it.
It's a demonstrator home, wasn't it? I remember that.
Yes, in Walthamstow. And they just opened it up to the public. And their amazing team did like tours, like 5 every Saturday or whatever. And going around it, you could hear people going, oh, but I can't see any of it. Where is it? This just looks like a normal house. And like being able to ask questions like, do we really need to do that? How much was that? What are your fuel bills now? It was obviously EPC A and basically costs like 2 pence a year to run. It was incredible. And so stuff like that's in real life. I think people want to see, touch, feel, be around.
Yeah, I think we've normalized bad standards. And so it's kind of okay. And it's so omnipresent. I mean, I have a neighbor who has black mold, and it's like, it's not ideal. It's like, no, you can die from this. And that's, I mean, this is a third world country territory, right? We need to be very, very clear about our languages around this. So, but I think it's not just, because the question is who pays for it? Is it the individual versus the government? And I think it goes beyond that, right? It's adding value. I had a client, this was before COVID, and she was paying £460 per month on energy bills, which is insane.
Wow.
Yeah, and this is before,
Yeah.
Ukraine war.
Before it's gone up, before the energy bills have gone crazy.
It was a big house. Okay, so
I was going to say it's not my little house.
It was a house because it was a conservation, story. I mean, the fact that we still have this discussion around single glazing is ridiculous. I mean, anyway, but I did a project for her, and she moved into a house, and at the time those energy bills went down to about £20 a month, and that saving is not, I know I'm talking cross purposes here about properties as an asset, but still, since we are in this world, I kind of have to bring it up. The fact is that these energy savings are not built into a property's valuation. So if I've got 2 identical houses, and one you're paying £100 a month on energy bills, and one you're paying £10 on energy bills, there's no difference in the insurance, in the kind of the value of your property. And that needs to change. We need to start talking with real estate agents. We need to start talking with valuers and, with banks and with insurers about that, because we need to be able to put value into making homes healthy and comfortable for people.
I love that. That's a great way to kind of close out. Thank you. We need to change, basically. Thank you, Brigitte and Rosie, for coming onto the show. I hope you enjoyed it.
Yeah, great conversation. Could go on for hours.
Thanks so much for listening to the Built Environment Marketing Show. Don't forget to check out the show notes, which will have useful links and resources connected to this episode. You can find that on abasmarketing.com. And of course, if you like the show, please do share it with others on social, as it helps more people to find us. See you soon.